Hello and welcome to today's edition, Bava Metzia Daf 109, Amud 8. Makaba Sada L'Chaveru L'Shonim Mu'atos. One who receives a field. According to Rashi, this mission refers only to a tenant farmer, but a contractor may plant whatever he wants. The Ramban disagrees, as he maintains that even a contractor may not alter the terms of the agreement. The Ran explains in accordance with Rashi and adds that a contractor may plant whatever he chooses because the owner of the field did not specify what he must plant. From another, to cultivate for a few years. What does that mean? One who receives a field from another for a few years may not plant flax there. In addition, he does not have the right to take the branches of the sycamore trees, nor the value of any enhancements to trees that grew on their own accord. He is entitled to compensation for the loss of produce resulting from the growth of the trees in the area he was cultivating, provided that the trees grew in a place suitable for the growth of the crop he planted. Others, such as the Rosh, maintain that if he claimed that he would have planted trees there even had they not sprouted on their own, he is entitled to the value of the portion of the trees as though he planted them. He received the field for a period of at least 7 years. He may plant flax in the first year, and is entitled to the branches from the sycamore tree. And that's from the Rambam Seif Mishpat, Hilchot Shkirat 8.3, Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat 325.1. I.e., fewer than 7 may not plant flax units. What does that mean? What's flax? Pishtan, cultivated flax, Linum usitatissimum L, is an annual plant that grows erect to a height of 40 to 120 centimeters, and whose flowers are blue or white. Its stiff stalks contain flax fibers, and oil is extracted from its seeds. After the plant is cut, the stalks are soaked in water, called May Mishra, in the language of the sage, for several days. Various bacteria can cause the materials that attach the fibers to the stalks to decompose. Following that, the shell is beaten and opened, and the fibers are extracted for the purpose of weaving linen, known as bad or shiish in the language of the Torah. The flax plant has been cultivated since ancient times, especially in ancient Egypt, as flax greatly weakens the soil, and if a sycamore tree was growing in the field, he does not have rights to the beams fashioned from the branches of the sycamore tree. Sycamore, shikma. The sycamore tree, Ficus sycamorus, is a tall, broad species related to the common fig. Although the fruit of the sycamore are edible, it is mostly grown for its wood, as beams fashioned from sycamore branches are large, wide, and relatively lightweight. The sycamore tree must be left to grow for several years until it reaches sizable dimensions, at which point the wood is cut, while part of its trunk is left for a few more years to allow the branches to grow back and more wood to be harvested. And there's a picture here in the Koran of an old sycamore with a hollow trunk. Therefore, he may not cut down its branches for its own use, as it takes many years for new ones to grow. If he receives a field from him for 7 years, in the first year he may plant flax in it, and he does not have right to the beams fashioned from the branches of the sycamore tree. Abai says, although he does not have right to the beams fashioned from the branches of the sycamore tree, he does have rights to the enhancement of the sycamore tree, i.e. the value of its growth that occurred while he was cultivating the field. As Rabbi says, he does not even have right to the value of the enhancement of the sycamore tree. The Gemara raised an objection to Rabbi's opinion from a Baraita. With regard to one who receives a field from another to cultivate it, and it's time to leave arrives, the court appraises its value for him. What is it not that the court appraises for him the value of the enhancement of the sycamore and all the trees? The Gemara responds, no, the court appraises for him the value of the vegetables and beets left in the field. So what's the footnotes here? Shana no Yalka Vesilka. The Gemara explains that this refers to a situation where the market day had not yet arrived. In that case, if the vegetables are not yet fully ripe, the owner of the field retains a portion of them, as his land is still nurturing that growth. By contrast, the phrase "the court appraises its value for him" indicates that the tenant receives the entire value of the vegetables. The Rashba maintained that there was no difference in this regard, and the Gemara merely offered an example. With regard to the halacha, everyone agrees that the cultivator is entitled to parts of the vegetables even if they are not fully grown. One who receives a field from another for a few years may not plant flax there. In addition, he does not have the right to take the branches of the sycamore trees, nor the value of any enhancements of trees that grew of their own accord. He's entitled to compensation for the loss of produce resulting from the growth of the trees in the area he was cultivating, provided that the trees grew in a place suitable for the growth of the crop he planted. Others, such as the Roche, maintain that if he claimed that he would have planted trees there, even had they not sprouted on their own, he's entitled to the value of a portion of the trees, as though he planted them. If he received a field for a period of at least 7 years, he may plant flax in the first year. He's entitled to the branches from the sycamore tree. And that's the Rambam Seif Mishpat and Hilchos Chiyuvot 8.3 Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mikvah 25.1. The Gemara challenges: if it is referring to vegetables and beets, let them uproot and take them. The Gemara explains it is referring to a case where the market day has not yet arrived. So if he uproots them now, he will not be able to sell them. He therefore leaves them for the owner of the land and receives money instead. The Gemara suggests, come here, another proof from a Brisa. In a case of one who receives a field from another to cultivate and the sabbatical year arrived, the Korah praises it for him. The Gemara first expresses puzzlement over the Brisa itself. Does the sabbatical year release land from the one who contracted to cultivate it? The arrangement is in effect during this time, and so why is there a need for an appraisal? The Gemara responds, rather say that the Brisa reads as follows. In the case of one who receives a field from another cultivator and the Jubilee year arrived, so what's the front note on the Jubilee year? The Jubilee year is a Yovel, the 50th year following the 7th sabbatical cycle of 7 years. The stage is unique in a number of ways. First, all the agricultural halachot that are followed in the sabbatical year must be observed in the Jubilee year. In addition, all Hebrew slaves, including those who agree to continue in servitude beyond their initial obligation, are emancipated. When the ancestral fields have been sold or returned to their original owners, see Leviticus 25. The emancipation of the slaves and the restoration of the fields takes place after Yom Kippur. The Jubilee year is observed only when the majority of the Jewish people live in empty soil. Consequently, its observance was discontinued toward the close of the First Temple period and was never renewed. Arrived. If one bought an ancestral field and planted trees there which flourished, when the field is returned in the Jubilee year, the value of the improvement of the trees is evaluated by a collector's sum. And that's from the Rambam Sefer Zerayim, Hilchos Shemitah B'Yovel 11.8. The court praises it for him. The Gemara asks, but still this is difficult. Does the Jubilee year release the term of the contractor? The measurement states permanently, Leviticus 25:23, which indicates that only land that was permanently sold returns to its owner, whereas land that was rented does not revert to the owner at the Jubilee year. Rather say that the Brisa reads as follows. In the case of one who purchases a field from another and the Jubilee year arrives, the court praise it for him. And if you would say that so too here, it means the court will praise it for him with regard to vegetables and beets. This cannot be, as vegetables and beets in the Jubilee year are ownerless. This is because the Jubilee is like the sabbatical year, in that any produce that grows is ownerless and may be taken by anyone. Rather, is the Brisa not referring to the enhancement of the value of the sycamore that occurred during the time here there in the field? It must be referring to this, and therefore presents a difficulty to Rabbah. Abai interpreted the Brisa so that it is in accordance with the opinion of his disputant Rabbah. There it is different, as the verse states, then the house was sold shall go out in the Jubilee, in Leviticus 25:33, which teaches that the house or field that was sold returns to its owner, but the value of its enhancement does not return, but remains with the buyer. The Gemara asks, if so, let us derive from it a general halacha that the value of the enhancement need not be returned. The Gemara answers, these two cases are dissimilar, as there in the Brisa it's a full-fledged sale, a full-fledged sale. Since this was a full-fledged sale, the halacha is that the buyer receives all rights to the item unless it was specified to the contrary. Although the field will eventually be returned in the Jubilee year, this transaction is not viewed as a temporary deal, but a complete sale that is later revoked. When the Jubilee released it, as this is a release of the king of divine decree, since the buyer had been in full ownership of the field, he keeps the value of the enhancement that occurred while it was his. By contrast, one who receives a field to cultivate is not an owner. A Gemara relates, Rav Papa received land as a contractor for growing hay. During the time he was cultivating it, palm trees sprouted in the ground. When he left the land, he said to the owners of the field, "Give me the right of the enhancement to the field from the palm trees." Rav Sheisha and Rav Edi said to Rav Papa, "If that is so, i.e., if your claim is justified, then in a situation where there was a palm tree and it grew thick, the difference between the thickening of the tree and the palm trees that sprouted is that the cultivator is entitled to anything that will be cut and removed. With regard to the additional thickness of a date palm which remains attached to the ground, he has no right to rid. So too would the master, i.e. Rav Papa, want to be paid for the value of the tree's enhancement." Rav Papa said to him, "There, in that theoretical case, the cultivator did not descend to the field with that possibility in mind, but the cultivator considered only the consumption of the date palm's fruit, not its growth. Here, in my case, I did indeed descend to the field with this in mind, and I anticipated receiving compensation for any growth of the field." The Gemara asked, according to whose opinion did he make the statement? Is it not in accordance to the opinion of Abaye, who says that he does not have right to divide the enhancement of the sycamore? The Gemara refuses claim. You may even say he holds in accordance to the opinion of Bava, as there the cultivator suffers no loss when the sycamore grows in the field, so he is not entitled to divide the enhancement as compensation. By contrast, here there is a loss, as palm trees that sprout and occupy space designated for hay. Rav Sheisha said to Rav Papa, "But here too the owner of the field can say, 'What loss have I caused you? I have caused you to lose a handful of hay. Take a handful of hay and go.'" Rav Papa said to him, "I claim that I grew garden saffron there." He claimed that he had lost land that he could have used for the cultivation of expensive produce, not only hay. Rav Sheisha said to him, "Even so, you admit that you wanted to plant the land for other plantings, not to plant palm trees, and you have thereby revealed your intention that you acted so as to take the produce and leave." Most commentators agree that the determining factor here is what he intended to plant. If he sought to plant trees, he is entitled to the improvement of the trees when they grow on their own accord. But since he wanted to grow produce that could be entirely removed, he does not retain any right to the improvement of the trees. Although Rav Papa could have made the former claim, he was one who speaks truth in his heart, Psalms 15:2, see Marko 24a, and would not state a claim that was not true, says the Rashi. Some commentators maintain that it makes no difference what he intended to grow, be it hay, saffron, or anything else. The determining factor is a purpose for which he initially accepted the land. Since in this case he did so to plant hay, it is not relevant whether he intended to plant trees. This is also the ruling of the Rambam. The produce and leave. Take your garden saffron and leave, as you have right only to the value of wood alone. Since you did not mean to grow these trees, you are entitled only to the price you could have received for the palm trees had you uprooted them and sold them as wood during the time you cultivated the field. The Gemara relates another incident. Abaye was the fifth generation Babylonian Amora, and apparently the son of Abaye Rabba's friend and colleague. There was no available information with regard to the identity of his teachers. Presumably he studied with his father and the other sages of the previous generation. He engaged in halachic discussions primarily with Rav Papa Mafuna, son of Rav Yeshua. Apparently he lived in Pumbedita and worked with his father as a farmer. His statements appear throughout the Talmud, although he never headed his own yeshiva. Rav Papa engaged in the study of esoterica, and many of his statements in that area are found in the Talmud. Received land to cultivate, and he surrounded it with a fence made of earth. In the meantime, trees sprouted in it. When he left the field, he said to the owners, "Give me my value of the enhancement of the trees that sprouted." Rav Papi said, "It is because you come from unfortunate people." What does that mean? Asisimi mulai. Many interpretations have been offered for this expression, which appears in several places in the Talmud. One opinion is that the word Mulaye means truncated or unflawed, alluding to Rabbi's ancestry from the family of Eli, who occurs to die at a young age. See 1 Samuel 2:33. Others maintain that Mamala is the name of the place where Eli's descendants lived, based on Bereshit Rabbah. By contrast, the Orach cites an explanation that Mamala means exalted and great. And the statement therefore means, since You come from great people like Abai and Rabbah, you teach great ideas. You say unfortunate and unsound words. Abai's family came from the family of Eli, whose descendants were sentenced to die at a young age. Rav Papa explains, even Rav Papa said only that he is entitled to divide the inheritance of the parties when he suffered a loss, as they take up part of the field. Here, by contrast, what loss do you have? As a tree sprouted in a place that would have been left unplanted, you have not lost anything and you are not entitled to compensation. Now, Gemara relates Rav Yosef had a certain planter whose job it was to plant trees, similar to a sharecropper. He died. Shetala Sachev. If someone received a field for a fixed period of time and subsequently died and left behind a son, the owner may not demand payment for what the father ate. Similarly, the son is not entitled to everything that was agreed upon with his father. Instead, the court appraises the value of what he did until his death, and this sum is given to his son. And he left behind 5 sons-in-law. Well, Yosef said, until now I had to deal with only one person, now there are 5. Hashta Chamisha. The Ramban writes that these are considerations of piety, as according to the letter of the law, the agreement with the original planter does not transfer to his children by inheritance. But Yosef was supplying a rational basis for a decision that they would understand and accept. Until now, they did not rely on each other to plant the trees and did not cause me a loss. And the responsibility was the father-in-laws. But now they are 5, they rely on each other to plant the trees and cause me a loss. In light of these circumstances, he decided to discontinue the agreement with them. Rabbi Yosef said to them, if you take the value of your enhancements that you brought into the field and remove yourselves, all's well. But if not, I will be without giving you the value of the enhancement. Rabbi Yosef explains his statement. As Rabbi Yehuda says, and some say as Rav Huna, and some say as Rav Nachman, with regard to this planter who died, his heirs may be removed without receiving the value of the enhancement. They will comment that this is not correct. Velo Milsahi, the Rivan cited in Tosfos 109b maintains that the statement attributed to Rabbi Yehuda was never stated at all, and Rabbi Yosef said so only as a threat to the heirs. Tosfos raised several difficulties with its interpretation. Other commentaries contend that although the actual statement was not formulated in the precise manner in which it was transmitted, the ruling halacha is essentially accurate, and the Rambam rules accordingly. According to this opinion. The Gemara relates another incident. There was a certain planter who said to the owner, if I cause a loss to the vineyard by ruining its plants, I will leave the field. Ultimately, he indeed caused a loss to the plant, but some enhancement from the time he began did still exist. In a location where the custom is that one who plants trees receives half of the value of the enhancement and his planting resulting in both losses and enhancements, half of the enhancement is calculated, from which the amount of the losses he causes deducted, and he receives the remainder of the sum. Even if the planter stipulated that he causes a loss, he should receive nothing. If this is disregarded as an asmachta, and he forfeits only the actual loss in accordance with the opinion of Bava. I'm safe Mishpat and Hilchot Givut 10:6 Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 32. Bava said he leaves without receiving payment for the enhancement. Rav Kahana said he leaves and takes the payment for the enhancement resulting from his work. And Rav Kahana concedes that if he said, if I cause a loss, I will leave without receiving payment for the enhancement, he indeed leaves without receiving payment for the enhancement. Conversely, Bava said a promise of this kind, which he does not expect to have to fulfill, is a transaction with an inconclusive intent as machta. And the halacha is that an machta does not affect acquisition and is therefore not legally binding. The Gemara asks, and according to Rambam, in what ways is it different from that which we learned in the Mishnah in 104a? That the recipient of the field stipulates, if I let the field lie fallow and do not cultivate it, I will pay with the best quality produce, in which case he is obligated to fulfill his promise. The answer is there, he pays for the loss he caused, while here we deduct from him the loss that he caused, and we give him the other portion of the money. He did not forfeit all that was due to him just because some of his plantings were unsuccessful. The Gemara relates that Runya, the planter of Ravina, Runya was a planter of Ravina. He caused a loss, and Ravina removed him from his field. Ravina came before Rava and said to him, "Let the master see what Ravina has done to me." Rava said to him, "Ravina did well, as you caused him a loss." Ravina said to him, "But Ravina did not warn me beforehand. How can he force me to leave without prior warning?" Rava said to him, "In this case, it is not necessary to provide a warning." The Gemara comments, Rava conforms to his line of reasoning, as Rava said, with regard to a teacher of children. What does that mean? Mikre Dake. According to Rashi, the reason is that his students will absorb his errors, which will be hard to correct later. Other commentaries question this interpretation, as it is apparently the opposite of Rava's own opinion. See Bava Metzia 21a. Some differentiate between mistakes the children make on their own and those of the teacher. The Rif maintains that this refers to a teacher who beats his pupils and is unable to control them. Tosfot in Bava Metzia 21b offers a third explanation, that the irretrievable loss is the lost time. A plant and a ritual slaughterer. The Bacha, ritual slaughterer. It is clear that if the ritual slaughterer renders the animal meat forbidden, he must pay for the damage. There is an additional loss that might be incurred if, for example, the ritual slaughterer rendered the meat forbidden, and as a result, our host is unable to honor his guests properly by serving them meat. This would be cause for the ritual slaughterer's dismissal. With regard to the halach itself, I maintain that the offender is not removed from his person immediately, but only after several incidents of this kind. And that's the end of the Omid. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.